ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਮੇਨ ਸਟ੍ਰੀਮ ਵਿਦ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਸਿੰਘ ਤੂਰ। ਆਪ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ, ਨਮਸਕਾਰ, ਆਦਾਬ ਐਂਡ ਸ਼ਲੋਮ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੈਪੀ ਨਿਊ ਈਅਰ ਟੂ ਐਵਰੀਬਾਡੀ। ਆਈ ਹੋਪ ਯੂ ਹੈਡ ਏ ਗੁੱਡ incoming new year, everybody, because we are going through this change of weather, the flu and everything, but that's part of life. Please feel free to send me an email on justour@gmail.com so that your concerns, your issues, we can discuss here. And it is always appreciated, the communication. Even though I do come across the people, they talk to me on the phone, but emails are also, it's a good way of record keeping for me actually. And once again, the email is hstoor@gmail.com. You can see it on the screen. That's my personal email. And I promise that the answers will be given based on what I know, what I can find, and what I can't. Still, I will be able to tell you exactly what I know and what I don't, because that's me. So now we are we have already stepped into 2024, and it's going to be a really interesting year. Even though we have been watching, a lot of things have been happening recently. The evolution of the computers, the technology, and of course the smartphones, where we are today. Just think about it. When originally, they just came out with an Apple iPhone. I think it was year 2006 or something like that. And since then, where we are today, and just imagine where we will be in maybe next 10 years, maybe even less than that, by 2030. Because based on the new AI research, artificial intelligence, that Chat GPT is already working its way up. And even though the data is being pulled from different resources, which is already out there in virtual environment, but the question is how much that data is right and how much that data needs to be checked. We will talk about it, but let us start with once again to all the viewers, wishing you a very happy 2024, which is a Gregorian calendar. We will have a Chinese New Year coming, then we will have our own New Year coming up, which is the Punjabi Sikh New Year coming up. And then of course we will have the Hindu New Year and all those based on lunar calendar. So as and when we will have that, we will talk about it. So now let us talk about the few things which are very important and going to happen in 2024. Okay. We will definitely see election in United States and definitely in India. In Russia also elections are slated. In British also the elections are slated, and these are the big countries where we will see elections taking place in 2024. In India, it's going to be around May, end of April, May, whatever the calendar will be for the Lok Sabha, for the MPs, and it is going to be very interesting election. Even though they have India bloc, but I personally don't think it will make much difference, because the current Prime Minister Modi, he is very popular within India, especially within Hindu community, and they definitely have a huge ground troops in the shape of RSS. So anybody who is dreaming of that they will be able to dislodge the current Prime Minister Modi, to be the Prime Minister third time, I think they are daydreaming. Okay. Now the question comes in, how to manage. First of all, let us little bit of democratic setup. Okay, what is democracy? Democracy is based on individuals' rights. If you don't exercise your rights, then you lose it, and that is what happens, especially in democratic countries. And that is the reason that in most of the democratic countries, the minority rules majority. I know I have talked about it before on this show, but I'm going to break it down today again for the people who need to understand what it means. Basically, about 60 to 65% people come out to vote average in India. In the United States, it's about 52, 53%. So let us take the rule of thumb, go with 60% people come out to vote. Okay. Now that 60% who come out to vote, which means what? That there are other 40% they never came out and they never voted. So whosoever will take the majority out of that 60%, out of those 60 votes, he will by default be ruling those 40, because he took majority out of those 60%. Okay. Now, out of that 60%, what do you need to achieve majority? Out of 60, 30 plus 1, which is 31. So, if the winning party gets anything above 31%, they will be ruling on the remainder of the 69%. So, minority is going to rule the majority. When I say majority, it means the 100% of the population will be ruled by those 31% people who got votes and got their representatives into the member of parliament or into the state assemblies or blah blah whatever it is. Okay. So now the question comes in, the next question of course is, if that is the scenario, then how the system which is called a democratic system is a good system. Out of all the systems which had been tried historically before, where you have the kings, you had other local rulers who are the sardars or whatever it is, but ultimately they still had somebody up top as a king. Those were the times when you did not have that freedom which you enjoy in a democratic setup, even though within those 31%, like I'm saying, I'm just going to use this as a metaphor. It is not something which is exact I'm talking about, but it is, I'm using it just for as an example. Okay. You still have some rights. You may end up losing some of your rights, but you will still have some rights. Whereas in those dictatorships or where the kings rule, you are at the whim of those people. Even though within democratic setup you also are at the whim of the person who are elected, but still at least there is a semblance of that, I tried, I had my voice, but nobody listened to me. And I think that is one of the reasons that why a lot of people, they are frustrated. They are frustrated with the democratic elections and the process, because they feel like that we have been either left behind or we are not being paid proper attention. Now, there is another casualty to this kind of process, which is the media itself, which you are looking at right now. Again, For me, I try to bring in as much information as possible from different resources. I have gone over it before also, and I do admire those journalists who go out there and do so much work, which I try to put it together so that I can share it with you. Okay, my resources are very diverse, starting from New York Times to Daily News, New York Post, Washington Post, Fox sometime, CNN sometime MSNBC, very little of those. Fox is the least watched show by me. I'm being very honest here. BBC, Al Jazeera, and then on the other printed is Foreign Affairs, Foreign Policy, and some of the books which are written by the public figures, including the person who recently passed away, Henry Kissinger, Liz Cheney's book. I haven't been able to read it yet, but I bought the book the day it came out, and I'm going to read it and share with you. And also, I was reading about certain things in the past which happened in India, especially in Punjab. Being a Punjabi, I definitely have more interest in Punjab. And the Prime Minister from India, Prime Minister Modi from being Gujarat, I also try to follow, what is happening in Gujarat. Gujarat is totally industrialized state right now, and it has happened under the current Prime Minister Modi. When he was Chief Minister, he did a really good job in getting the Gujarat state industrialized. Gujarat was already on the phase to get industrialized before the current Prime Minister became the Chief Minister over there. And with the Prime Minister also putting in his vision of what India should look like, even though he is very much non-available to the media to answer any questions. And I was surprised that he actually spoke about what was going to happen in the United States, and it happened in Canada, that he did give one statement on that. I was really surprised. But everything, whatever it is accepted, and it is honored that at least it is the Prime Minister of the biggest democracy, even though it is flawed, but still it is a democratic country. So the world's biggest democratic country's Prime Minister spoke about the issues. And reasons are definitely why he spoke. After the break, we are going to talk about that because it is about time to go for a break. But one thing which I want to share with you, and that is that conversation is always important, and those conversations should be respected. So we were talking about the process about the elections and how we should be actually talking about the openness in the society, the media, and some of the things which, when we look at the broader picture of the world, we need to understand every country has its own unique requirements. Every country has its own unique project or ideas where they want to be in next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, maybe 50 years. And based on that, they are planners, they do the planning and interact with the rest of the world at different world bodies, whether it is United Nations in right here in New York, or it is the Davos economic get-together in Switzerland, and we can go on and on different things. BRICS is there, and then there is AUKUS, which is Australia, UK, and United States, and different OPEC is the Middle East countries, the oil-producing countries. So all these consortium, they have their own vision of the production, what should be, how it should be, and how they can maintain those things. So, but one thing which really I always talk about, which is really very deep to my heart, is about the freedom of expression. Okay? Even though sometimes I feel disgusted about the things which are happening even in the current time within my own religion by certain group of people, to stop you from even thinking about what you should be thinking. Okay. In Israel, the Supreme Court of Israel today struck down the amendment passed by Netanyahu's government, which was to control the power of Supreme Court. They struck it down. Okay? That is called the freedom and to protect the Constitution. And I'm sorry to say, but in India, we do not have that kind of, I don't see it, honestly. If there is something I'm missing, I would really love to hear that. I would really like to see that. But there is one thing which is there, that the individual rights and the states' rights are being chipped away one step at a time since the independence of India. Same way right here in the United States, individual rights are being chipped away since Reagan came to power. And it's a fact. We just need to look at it. I always give an example which I personally do not like, but at the same time, it sets up an example of what the freedom of expression and freedom of speech should be. In Texas, one of the gentlemen, he burned the U.S. flag on the state's steps. He was arrested by the cops and he was charged. The court let him go free by giving him, the right of expression and right of freedom of speech. It's not that I like what he did, but I like the whole idea of freedom of speech and freedom of expression. As compared to when in India a call is given that everybody should put up a flag on the roof or in front of their chuggi, and if somebody cannot afford it and did not put it, got penalized. The Supreme Court in India, they are doing great job. I'm not trying to diminish or make what they are doing look smaller, but at the same time, some of the decisions leave the question mark. Same way, some of the decisions taken by the U.S. Supreme Court are also question marked. And the biggest issue which has become in U.S. right now is who controls the Supreme Court at the end of the day. Because assumption is, to some extent it is correct, that whosoever will control the Supreme Court will have the last say on any law. There are no more like the way it used to be, the Republicans, that they are like, we are conservative, this and that, In Republican form of conservatism, it was about the individual's rights, individual's freedoms. Okay? And I will give you just one example here. By striking down Roe versus Wade, they literally proved that they do not really like to have the people the freedom the way the people want it. They want the freedom the way they want it, the rulers. In this case, it was the Supreme Court which struck it down. Same way, there were few issues which were decided in India in that Indian Supreme Court, which were actually, I personally find them a little bit off the center, maybe because I don't have all the information, maybe I am biased because of anything. I try to not to be biased, but I'm giving, benefit of doubt to look at me and then listen to me. And that's why I always give my email, so that if you have any question, anything, feel free to send me an email, shoot me an email at hstoker@gmail.com. So when we talk about those kind of setups, and then you mix the democracy which we have now, either in US or UK or in India, and then compare that to, China has its own way of election, Russia has its own way of elections, where the winner is declared with 99% of the votes, 98% of the votes. In other countries also it happens like that. Any sane person, when will look at it, will see, what is this? What's going on? Look at the Hong Kong. What happened to Hong Kong? And when it was turned over to China in 1998, there were some rules and regulations, some things agreed upon between China and United Kingdom. Slowly but surely, China took away one at a time. And now one of the person who was actually talking about that the rights of individuals within Hong Kong are being restricted, he ended up fleeing the country, and now he is wanted, and there is a price on his head. So what I'm trying to say here is, in a democratic country, it should not be like that. Even here in the United States, we do see the things not the way we expect them to be. The war in Israel, between Israel and Hamas, has actually exposed a lot of people when it comes down to deciding what is right and what is wrong. What Hamas did was totally unacceptable. But it does not mean that what Israel was doing and is doing should be acceptable either. That's where the difference comes in between a sane person or sane policy, or insane person or insane policy. When you talk to the people from Palestine, the Palestinians, then you find out that there are Jews who are also Palestinians, which when you read the media, you have no idea about it. Even I did not have that idea before till I came across and I read about it. So we as individuals, we should be very careful when we are stepping into this 2024. Like I mentioned, I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence, what it is. Google is trying to catch up. At one point, Google was way ahead of Microsoft and other artificial intelligence developers, but then somehow it fell behind because it within Google, the staff decided to go slow because they were not sure about few things. And then all of a sudden, last year around end of the month, Microsoft came out, then artificial intelligence ChatGPT came out, and Microsoft actually worked with AI to integrate that into their web browser. And that's when Google decided to go ahead. Google then came out with Bard, and then they upgraded to Gemini. So what actually it is? It is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence basically is that all these super duper computers, they search for the data in virtual world. They put it together and they put it out in front of you. It is not a perfect result, but it definitely gives you some idea about certain things. But at the same time, what we need to understand is that what we are looking at may not be the facts. It may be something which has been put out by somebody without that person's knowledge. For example, if you write down something about me which I don't know that you did, and somebody out there is doing a research with my name on it, he will not only see what I have put out or some other things from the media which are out there for me, but it will also pull out the thing which was put out by somebody in a negative tone about me. And then you have the right to make a decision what to take and what not to take. But then if you don't know me, how you are going to leave what should be left and what should be taken? You know, when I was growing up, I always heard about it, and then later on I read about it that Hitler said that maybe he just picked up from somebody even before that, that if you tell a lie 100 times, people start believing in it, that it's a fact. And 2020 election of United States is a perfect example of that. You know, when Donald Trump actually won the election, even though he got less number of votes overall than Hillary Clinton, but Donald Trump became the president. A lot of people will never understand that presidential election is direct election. Then how come Hillary Clinton, who got more votes, lost? Same way Al Gore got more votes but lost. You know, that is the weird way the whole system is set up in this country. And that's where the former president, like I always say, you know, the former president who is current president and running to be the president again, Donald Trump, abused or used whatever was available to him as a tool. Kellyanne Conway at the inauguration time, you know, when the crowd at the mall in Washington D.C. was less than what was the crowd when the former president Obama took the oath, she came out with the term of alternate facts. The facts are facts. Alternate facts are the lies. So instead of saying that we refuse to accept the fact and we will go with the, we will construct our own facts, which she did along with the president, she said alternate facts. That was the term. Same way, when President Trump found out that he is losing the election, he came up with this idea of having fake electorals, fake everything. And let's not forget, even before he got elected, any news media which will put out the news about him in the terms of what the news should be, he will say fake news. I can count one or two, maybe three for you right now, One was he created a university where the people from all over the world applied, they made the money, they paid the money. The former President Trump made money out of that, and when he was challenged in the court, he wrapped up and he settled that. You know what the settlement is? Settlement is actually accepting the guilt without accepting it, and he is good at it. Then he collected the funds in the name of veterans. When it was found out that he actually collected the money, but it was never distributed, he did same thing which he always did. Settled. He claimed that he actually was the one who contributed after 9/11 in downtown Manhattan. Actually, he made money out of that. And believe it or not, after the World Trade Center fell, he boasted, the former President Donald Trump actually boasted that now I have the tallest building in Manhattan. He had no concern about the people who died. His concern was ego. And that's where, when ego actually becomes part of politics, that's when you decide and go out searching how you can just make everybody not to believe what are the facts. And that's why the fake news actually became a big thing. And let's not forget another issue here. Okay, the other country, they definitely have interest what happens in the United States. Right now, US is the biggest power on the planet Earth right now as we talk. Even though we hit the $34 trillion on the debt, but still everybody is looking to have a piece of pie within the United States. So who runs the Congress, who runs the government, who runs the White House matters to other countries. Remember that the Prime Minister Modi, when he came to the United States, he endorsed Trump for re-election, even though he was not supposed to do it, but he did it. So those are the things. Artificial intelligence is now going to play a bigger role in that in this year's elections in 2024, right? Everywhere, even in India. Don't take it in a personal or wrong way. What I am saying here is that the person who is sitting at the power will use every tool to stay in the power. Okay? President Biden, his team will also use every tool whichever they can. The question will be how those tools are used. And when we will find out? We will find out after the facts, not before. And if you find out something before, the time it takes to investigate and bring it to the court or other things, it's a lengthy process, and within that process, most of the time people lose their interest. There was, even though I personally did not see it, there was something out there that President Putin was speaking, which actually was not what he said, but it was out there. And later on, people found out that no, it was not him. That is something which is like somebody using my face, my lips, and playing with it, and you just have to fine tune the movement of the lips and put in the words in my mouth, which are not my words, but those are the words which you actually want to hear and see it. That okay, Harpreet said it. Oh, he said it. I was there. I saw it on the TV. But yeah, you saw it either on the TV or on the computer or on your smartphone, but you did not see him personally saying those words. That is what the danger is of AI to be abused. Besides that, the fine tuning of the AI could actually lead to ultimately one day AI becoming a power in itself. It already is a power, but right now it is the power which is still controlled by some of the humans. But it may end up becoming a power in itself, where it may decide what to save, what not to save, what to kill, and what not to kill. And there were debates on that, but with this, after the chat GPT and AI coming out, there is more and more discussion on it. More and more conversations are going on. There are benefits of AI. Let's not get it wrong. That the things which you took years to figure out, it does it in seconds or minutes. But how to use it? You know, when you write down your school paper, it used to be that you will do the research and go through all those pains before you do it. But now you just type into AI and look into it, and it will just give you whatever is out there, and you just type it, print it, or just copy it, paste it, do one or two additions to it, subtractions, and give it to the teacher. The teachers now need to be even smarter than that, so that they can figure out what's going on. Was it really written by the person who is claiming that he wrote it, or somebody else? So that's what the AI will be. So now we are at a point where we are going to talk about what is actually happening. How many among us actually remember that there was a civil war in Yemen, and there was a truce to sort of like a ceasefire, and that ceasefire is still holding? One of the group was being supported by Saudi Arabia, the other one was by Iran. Then Hamas thing happened. Now in Red Sea, the shipping lanes are being threatened by Houthis from Yemen, which is being claimed are supported by Iran. You know, the proxy wars are out there, and all these nations, they do it. Even within the states, it is done. You know, which where you want to control which states and how. And you know, with all due respect to everybody, what happened in Punjab in 80s and 90s, it was a proxy war. Even before that, when Naxalites was an issue in Punjab, it was again at that time it was proxy war. When the division of India took place, it was a proxy war by different country at that time. But later on, it was within the country, the proxy wars were done against their own population to control or to suppress what they are talking about it. And what you put out in the media is what matters, and people start believing that. And that was what was happening at that time. And I'm talking about the time when there was only the print media. We did not have any smartphones. We did not have social media. Now we have social media, and with the AI abusing the social media to literally make one group of community as unwanted is very easy. Very, very easy. When you go to Europe, They have the ones which we call tapri was in India. They have those people in Europe. They are not welcomed by any nation, but those were the people who literally, since the inception of the human beings, they have been roaming around, and that's how they lived their life. Within India, there are places where even today, if you go, there are, like they say in India, kabilas. If you are a foreigner, you walk in there, even if you do it by mistake, they will kill you because you are not accepted within those groups. So, right here in United States, the original residents of US, they were literally, wiped out, literally. There are some pockets left, and when they went to the Supreme Court, they got some judgment passed in their favor. The original Indians, the tribes, like they call it here, those laws were challenged by the states. And I think it was the Kansas, which is actually, majority of the Kansas actually was given to the tribe, and now it is being challenged. So how the pre-social media, pre-computer revolution world was living and how it is living now, and how the post-computer, the world which will move into AI, will live. It is scary. There was a time when a news, before it is printed, it was definitely checked, double checked, triple checked. Even the editor, before he okays that, okay, put it into the newspaper, he will make sure that there is information gathered and the facts are checked, and only then he or she will okay to put it in the print. It's not that anymore. It is more like, okay, we are under the gun. We have to have this news out within this time, so let us get it out. Just imagine how long it took to the, for the Watergate, to those reporters who broke the news, and the efforts and the pain they had to go through. When I ran in 2021, there were some news which came out for me as compared to some other candidates. And, when they compared me with another candidate who was also a Sikh, a female, I was not really treated the way I should have been treated. I'm not saying that they should have done any favor to me, but there should be a balanced reporting of what has been achieved by Harpreet and what could be done, or what was done by the other candidate and what could be done. No, it was not like that. Why? Because the people who were writing that, those were young kids, and they just needed to wrap up what they were doing, what they were writing. I'm just giving you an example because I'm giving you my example, not because just it was me, but because I definitely know that this is how it was done, and when we questioned it, there was no reply. At least when I ran in 2010, the person from the print, the Tribune in Queens, she was actually asked to do some deep digging on me, on my background, and she called me. And she literally asked me, and even though she did not tell me who told her about those things about my personal life, but for me that was fine. That's okay. I answered, And once I answered, and she was like, you did not do anything wrong. What's wrong here? I said, well, you judge, because you are the person who is going to make the report and write it, because you are going to do the follow-up on what you have written previously. There are no more follow-ups, no more corrections. And that is the scary part. So before the end of the show, let me say this thing once again. First of all, Happy New Year to you all, number one. Number two, think about it. The democracies are there, and we as individuals, we have the power to keep those democracies functioning the way they should be. And if we don't do our duty, if we don't do our part, then don't expect the results the way you want them to be. Even if when you go out and vote, even if you lose, if you vote in enough numbers, the message goes out that, okay, I need to look at that side also. And that's where it matters. That's where democracy matters. That's where the freedom of speech, freedom of thought, and freedom to explore matters. If you don't have those freedoms, then your thinking is constrained, and that's when you start lynching the people or hanging the people, not literally hanging them, but hanging them on the social media and making sure that either they disappear or they change the way they think or they work, and that is a loss to us all collectively. With that note, till next time, good night and good luck.